I've been a police officer in an urban city for nearly 25 years. That's crazy, right?
Right?
And in that time, I've served in every rank from police officer to police chief.
Wow! Police chief. That's right at the top. Good for you.
A few years ago, I noticed something alarming. Starting in 2014, I started monitoring recruits as they cycled through police academies in the state of New Jersey. And I found that women were failing at rates between 65 and 80% due to varying aspects of the physical fitness test.
Huh. Well, maybe they needed to work harder on their physical fitness before the testing then. It's just a thought.
I learned that a change in policy now required recruits to pass the fitness exam within 10 short workout sessions. This had the greatest impact on women. The change meant that recruits had about 3 weeks out of a 5-month-long academy to pass the fitness exam.
3 weeks to pass the fitness exam. Seems like an awfully long time. And this is an unreasonable expectation for police trainees? Oh, I'm sorry, for female police trainees?
This just didn't make sense, though. Police agencies and police recruits had made huge investments to get those recruits into the academy. Police recruits had passed lengthy background checks, they had passed medical and psychological exams, they had quit their jobs, and many had spent more than $2,000 in fees and equipment just to get kicked out within the first 3 weeks.
Well, if they cannot meet the requirements of the job, then yes. They are not owed a job, merely on the basis of passion and dedication. And if they were so passionate and dedicated, one might think they would know ahead of time what is expected of them and would have worked to get where they needed to be in order to pass.
The dire situation in New Jersey led me to examine the status of women in policing across the United States. I found that women make up less than 13% of police officers, a number that hasn't changed much in the past 20 years.
13% for 20 years, holding steady. You might almost think that shows an average pattern of interest for women looking to join law enforcement.
And they make up just 3% of police chiefs as of 2013, the last time the data was collected.
Ah, yes, police chiefs, the local law enforcement equivalent of Fortune 500 CEOs.
We know that we can improve those rates.
Sure, you can improve those rates, but why do I get the feeling that our speaker is willing to sacrifice quality in favor of quantity?
Other countries like Canada, Australia, and the UK have nearly twice the amount of police women. And New Zealand is steadily marching towards their goal of recruit gender parity by 2021.
Australia, Canada, the UK, and New Zealand. So the rates and types of crime commonly confronted by police in those other countries is exactly the same as the United States? So we should model our training and physical standards based on the circumstances in other countries. Got it.
Other countries are actively working to increase the number of women in policing because they know of a vast body of research evidence spanning more than 50 years detailing the advantages to women in policing.
I thought this was about female police trainees in New Jersey being unable to meet the physical standards requirements to qualify to be an officer. Are you meaning to imply that the physical standards have been put in place specifically and intentionally to discourage and exclude female candidates? That is an interesting accusation. I do hope you have some proof to back that up.
From that research, we know that police women are less likely to use force or to be accused of excessive force.
How comforting that must be to all of the violent criminals out there.
We know that police women are less likely to be named in a lawsuit or a citizen complaint.
Well, is that because female officers commit fewer violations? Or is it a result of people being less likely to report a female officer and let her off the hook? I'm just curious.
We know that the mere presence of a policewoman reduces the use of force among other officers.
Other officers. So, male officers, you mean? And what if force is both necessary and appropriate in some cases? Do female officers become a benefit or a danger in those instances?
And we know that police women are met with the same rates of force as their male counterparts, and sometimes more, and yet they're more successful in diffusing violent or aggressive behavior overall.
Even when they're unable to match a male officer's physical proficiency? Well, in the absence of your citing any studies or numbers, I guess I just have to go with, if you say so.
So there are vast advantages to women in policing, and we're losing them to arbitrary fitness standards.
Arbitrary standards. A set standard that is random or altered on a whim. None of the standards imposed are based on real-world physical necessities to perform police duties or align with possible situations police might find themselves in while on duty. They're just made up as they go along. Got it.
The problem is, the United States has nearly 18,000 police agencies, 18,000 agencies with wildly varying fitness standards. We know that a majority of academies rely on a masculine ideal of policing that works to decrease the number of women in policing.
Ah, so now you make it plain. Police departments are setting physical standards at levels unachievable by women in order to keep women out. Even though a steady 13% of law enforcement is female, even though you rose to the level of becoming a chief of police. Got it.
These types of academies overemphasize physical strength with much less attention spent to subjects like community policing, problem solving, and interpersonal communication skills.
Community policing is not going to help you keep pace with a fleeing suspect. Interpersonal communication skills will not help you restrain and handcuff a violent individual. But then, as a former police chief, I would think you would know that already.
This results in training that does not mirror the realities of policing. Physical agility is but a small component of police work. Much of an officer's day is spent mediating interpersonal conflicts. That's the reality of policing.
Yes, but when that moment comes, when you need an officer to be physically capable of pulling a full-grown adult out of the way of danger, when you need the force necessary to restrain someone who could cause harm to themselves or to others, in those most vital of moments, would you rather have the officer skilled in verbal diplomacy or the one who met those rigorous physical standards?
These are my babies. And we can reduce the disparity in policing by changing exams that produce disparate outcomes.
Exams do not produce disparate outcomes. They produce those who qualify and those who do not. The responsibility of success is on the exam taker, not on the exam.
The federal courts have stated that men and women simply are not physiologically the same for the purposes of physical fitness programs. And that's based on science.
Yes, that is exactly so. It is science. The physical demands of the job have been tested over the better part of 2 centuries of evolving police work, and the standard set by each jurisdiction generally reflects the needs of the job at hand in those jurisdictions. And if the needs of the job require a physicality that is uncommon in women, then that's science. It is not sexism.
Respected institutions that law enforcement deeply respects, like the FBI, the US Marshal Service, the DEA, and even the US military, they rigorously test fitness programs to ensure they measure fitness without gender disparate outcomes. Why is that?
Because of political and social pressures and criticisms similar to what you seem to be promoting in this presentation. That's my best guess, at least.
Because recruiting is expensive. They want to recruit and retain qualified candidates.
By lowering the standards of what defines qualified candidates. Got it.
You know what else the research finds? Well-trained women are as capable as their male counterparts in overall fitness, but more importantly, in how they police.
If women are more capable in fitness than their male counterparts, then why are you arguing for lowered physical standards for women?
The law enforcement community is admittedly experiencing a recruitment crisis. Yet, if they truly want to increase the number of applicants, they can. We can easily recruit more women and reap all those research benefits by training well-qualified candidates to pass validated, work-related, physiologically based fitness exams, as required by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act.
Title VII of the Civil Rights Act? You mean that part of the law that prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, and sex? You know, it's funny you bring up that part of the law when you are explicitly advocating for the alteration of hiring standards in order to recruit women who would otherwise be physically unqualified. You know, setting standards based on sex rather than on ability. It's very, very funny.
We can increase the number of women. We can reduce that gender disparity by simply changing exams that produce disparate outcomes.
Yes, the disparate outcomes of qualified and unqualified.
We have the tools. We have the research, we have the science, we have the law. This, my friends, should be a very easy fix. Thank you.
An easy fix. That is, if you see a problem in the first place. Too few women in any particular area of our world seems so often to carry with it the knee-jerk conclusion of sexism as the singular cause. This is the God of the gaps theory of socially conscious statistical analysis. It dismisses any possibility of personal agency on the part of women. It dismisses the steady 13% for 20 years.
I found that women make up less than 13% of police officers, a number that hasn't changed much in the past 20 years.
It dismisses our speaker herself. It also assumes there are no other considerations for women's interest in law enforcement beyond the physicality of it. Never mind the danger, never mind the stress, never mind the uncertain hours or burdens placed on family. No, it's just girls being forced to play at the boys' level, and that being unfair. This is just one more case of the soft bigotry of low expectations. Now, I do not disagree that police officers should all be given extra portions of conflict resolution, community policing, and communications training. but they should also be physically capable of handling situations where those skills fail or where they are not applicable. Because when someone's life is on the line, I could not care less what genitalia a cop has between their legs, so long as they know what they are doing and are capable of doing it. Why you would want to take risks with the lives and safety of civilians and other officers just to have statistics that you find morally and aesthetically pleasing is simply beyond my comprehension. But, then again, I am just a man. As always, thank you for watching.